Jim Brown's had a huge impact on my life and on this show for years. He was my primary insider we'd have on every week. We wouldn't even talk sports. We'd talk about life. And it's great to catch up with him again. Jim, good to talk to you. I saw you on TV at the Hall of Fame and on Hard Knocks. You're getting around great and seems like you're having a great time. How are you?
Well, I'm having a great time, JT. I'm glad to be able to talk to you today. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
We are good friends, and I'm thrilled that you could be on with us tonight. Let's start first off as an executive advisor for the Browns. Good problem to have with the young Tyrod Taylor, who doesn't turn it over, and Baker Mayfield, who you're on Hard Knocks with, who seems to be ahead of schedule. Nice problem to have when you have multiple quarterbacks to make a decision with.
Yeah, we're looking at a great future. Both of those guys can play. They have the right attitude, and I don't know who's going to end up being the starter, but whatever happens, I think the best man will start, and the next man will back him up. But I'm glad to have both of them as quarterbacks for the Cleveland Browns.
Jim, you've seen a lot of high-profile quarterbacks come into that organization over the years. What was the connection for you with Baker Mayfield? What'd you like about him just as a man, one-on-one?
Well, I like his attitude. He's got confidence. He's got just enough cockiness in him, and he can deliver the ball. He has a lot of poise. He doesn't panic. He knows how to stay in the pocket, but he can also run. But I think his mental capacity, his mental strength is what I really like.
Jim Brown is our guest. Jim, over the years, you've been on the show so many times, we would often talk about politics and not sports, from the Iraq War to what was happening in this country for well over a decade, you and I. But now I'm noticing as a sports talk host, I have to talk about politics with my football. From the anthem policy, I think I agree with you. You've known me a long time. I would never kneel during the anthem, but I haven't seen what you've seen in your life as an African-American and what the African-American players are dealing with today. Can you add on to your comments about the anthem and not taking a knee?
Well, let me tell you something, JT. I'm glad you brought that up. The average athlete that's black today plays on a team that's probably 70 to 80% black. The salaries are astronomical. The respect is given. When you look into the stands and look at the fans, there's about 80, 85, 90% white folks that have come out to cheer their team on. So we have to be very careful when we protest. We have to understand intelligently what we are protesting. White America is not the person that we try to portray white America as. White America has always stood up for the right thing. That portion of white America that did the right thing always stood up for the right thing. And when I gave you those statistics on those fans, there's no argument. They are supporting their teams that are predominantly black. Not only are they supporting the teams are making astronomical salaries that if they joined forces together and did something in the black community, we would have a great change in this country.
Jim Brown joins us. Jim, from your work with American, back to your civil rights work, to the ability that you were able to go into the bad neighborhoods in Los Angeles and try to stop the murder and the death of gang violence. Over the years, you've dealt with many good police officers, and there's always going to be a rogue police officer or others that if they break the law, if they're involved with brutality against African Americans, they should lose their job. They should be held to the highest extent of the law. Can you talk about what you're hearing now about police officers in this country and how they're being affected by the way they're getting called out by some NFL fans?
Well, you're right, JT. It's very complicated, and I hate to look at it in a general sense. I like to look at it case by case. Mm-hmm. Whenever a policeman does something wrong, it's doubly wrong because he is representing the law of the land. So, of course, all of us who are good Americans are against police brutality as we are against brutality, period. But when you talk about these modern players that get down on a knee, and then half the team is on their knees, half is not on their knees, and they're dealing with it in a less intelligent manner, I have to speak out and really make people think that I'm on the side of the bad law enforcement. But I'll reiterate and say this, JT. There are bad policemen, there are good policemen. There are bad people, there are good people. The policemen have a responsibility because they represent the law, they represent the system. They should hold themselves to a higher standard. But on the other hand, when you protest it and you're a football player, you must realize that you have to be intelligent and understand that when you want to talk about protest, talk about the unity of your team at least, and have everybody get on a knee if you're going to get on a knee.
Jim Brown joins us. Jim, you've known and you've sat down with many presidents over your life. When this current president gets political with the game that you played at the highest level, the NFL, and comments on this, are you able to comment? Do you sit back and watch this? Are you concerned of the message coming from the White House?
Well, I'll tell you, man, it's very confusing, JT. It's hard to know the good guys and the bad guys. I should be criticizing Trump on every level because he does certain things that calls for criticism. But when I look at television and I see all of these announcers become experts and they're pointing their fingers and they're not doing the doggone thing but pointing their fingers, I find myself really pulling for the president. Now, that will make me very unpopular in the black community, very unpopular with a lot of Americans. But I think that there are certain good things that are coming out of this presidency because we've never seen anything like it. I mean, there's confusion. A lot of people are retiring. A lot of people are giving their opinions. And we have to really dig deep down inside to come up with the right kind of an answer. But here's my answer to all who wants to criticize me or who don't believe that I'm a good American. I believe that I have to work on myself first to be as good a person as I can be, to back up my country in the best way I know how. And the second situation, I should be helpful to those people who need help, that don't have life as good as I have it. And if I do those two things, then I think I'm making my contribution.
Jim Brown joins us. He's being given the Life Achievement Award by the Fritz Pollitt Alliance next year. Great friend, really important part of my life. Jim, one other thing that's happening in society in America that I wanted to ask you about is the gun violence in Chicago. And I want to tie it into sports, where you have the White Sox and the Cubs and the Blackhawks and the Bears and a lot of athletes that live in and around Chicago. And I'm seeing so many shootings and so many deaths in just a small area, a small pocket. And I'm just wondering why more athletes aren't protesting that specific issue and what could be done. You've seen this happen throughout your life in other cities, from Philadelphia to Los Angeles to New Orleans. What's going on in Chicago and what could be done to help some of the innocent people there, let alone the individuals who are causing this chaos?
Well, I'll tell you, JT, you're absolutely right, and you put your finger on it. This is an atrocity. It's an embarrassment. It's horrific in a sense. And really, I don't know why it has escalated so much. But I do know that the fact that we have great athletes who have great influence and who have a lot of money and resources, if they could unite and approach these communities and give their help, I think that they could make a tremendous dent in these homicides. I don't say that they should go beyond the law, but I think if there is a problem that they can see, they can unite and take full advantage of the power that they have, being athletes and great athletes and being admired by people, and also the kind of money that they can raise to address the problem. And education is one of the main things that will make a major change in this country. And if the education of these individuals in the community that's killing each other is there, I think we can make a big difference.
One more football question. I seen all the highlights and I studied your great career. You imagine how hard you'd be fined for lowering your helmet and shoulder pads to get 4 or 5 yards. They're throwing flags every play for this helmet-on-helmet contact. You were a guy who always drove forward and had multiple people tackling you. Jim, could you live in a league like this today with all the flags on what were common tackles when you played back in the day? Well,
I'll tell you something, JT, and I don't want to sound cocky or anything. But you have rules, and a lot of times these rules are very difficult to follow. And sometimes they interfere with your success as a player. But the great thing about being a player, you have to play by the rules, even though the rules might not be correct. So I don't like the rules that they have made. I don't like it, but I have to respect it because that's what you have to play by. So as a great player, you have to make adjustments in your game to accommodate the rules and to get the same kind of results that you would get otherwise.
Jim, as we let you go, one of the highlights of my life was bringing you back to see Al Davis in Oakland a number of years ago so you could connect with Mr. Davis. I hope to see you in Oakland for the Browns and the Raiders who play early in the season. I love the fact that you love your team. You travel with your team. Will you be on the road with the Browns much this year?
Yes, I'm going to attend as many games as I could, JT. And I appreciate you. You know, you always call it like it is. And you've been lost a few years from me, but now we're back together, so let's do this again.
No doubt, and best to Monique and the kids. I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me in my life and my career. We'll see you soon, Jim. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, JT.